first big game for sure. It is the Florida Gators, 6-7 in 2022, 7-6 against the spread, going to Salt Lake City to take on the Utah Utes, defending Pac-12 champ. They were 10-4 last season, 8-6 against the spread. Now, this line has been a bit funky. When it first opened up over the offseason, the Utes were favored by 9. That has slid all the way down to 4.5 because we don't know what's going to go. We don't know what's going to happen with Cam Rising. Tore his ACL in the Rose Bowl, and we're getting some weird reports that he might not be back. Now, this one, 7 p.m. Central Time on Thursday. On ESPN. So exciting stuff. We're starting with a really, really good one. Cleanse us of that just kind of garbage week 0 slate. So I'll go ahead and kick us off here. And look, this has been tempting. The Gators have been tempting to me, and I'm not trying to do the play both sides thing because I've been on Utah the entire offseason, but getting a little worried about Cam Rising, getting a little bit worried about Utah. They always get off to a slow start to start seasons, I feel like. But at the same time, I saw what I saw with that Florida team last year. They were not good, even though they did beat this Utah team in Gainesville last season. I feel like the altitude will kind of throw them for a loop, if we're going to be honest. I know this is typical me playing up the conditions a little too much, but Florida has not played a non-conference game outside of the state of Florida since 1991. Road non-conference. They played a neutral site game against Michigan. So this is a totally different thing for them. Should be super weird. I think the Utes, regardless of Cam Rising's status, will be enough to get the win and get the cover. So give me Utah minus 4.5 here. Ty, I'll let you kick this one off next. Who do you like in the game?
Here, let's talk about what is and isn't financial advice. If you wanted some financial advice to get ahead of rampant inflation, what you should have done is listen to me last season when I was telling everyone, oh, the Anthony Richardson stock is high. And I was telling everyone, short it right now, short it. It's a bubble. Do not invest in Anthony Richardson. Blake, on the other hand, he was very high on Anthony Richardson. We all see how that has now turned out in the NFL. If you didn't see that, turned out poorly in the NFL. He's arguably the Dylan Gabriel of the NFL if Dak Prescott didn't exist. With all that being said, I think Florida may be a little bit better than they were last year, but I like Utah in this one. With or without their quarterback, I like a more fundamental team. I feel like I know what I'm going to get more from Utah. I think they're the safer bet, especially with this line crunching down.
Jameson?
Yeah, I mean, I understand it. Why? So hold on, Ty. You what'd you pick again?
I picked the Utes.
Okay, gotcha. So I'm gonna go Florida here, and it's not because of Graham Mertz, because I see Jimmy talking in the chat. Man, I've really wanted to believe him at Wisconsin this whole time. But it's just my thing of having this kind of last second change, and Cam Rising's ACL return that makes them think, oh, we're going to have to put in the backup quarterback. That's just really hard for me to kind of get a grasp on. This is not some kind of acute change, I would think, that, Cam Rising is not going to be playing. So the backup's kind of known for a while, probably, that he's going to come play. And I feel like that could be a positive, but at the same time, it's just like the times that we saw with Utah without Rising, it was like a night and day kind of thing. Like Utah was a really, really special team with Rising. But I just can't buy into it. I just think it's going to be too close of a game where I'm just going to take the 4.5 points.
Blake? Yep, I'm hopping on with Jameson. I would have been a little bit like, I would have been all in on Utah if Cam Rising was playing, but the news with him being doubtful, and we kind of previewed this on our Pac-12 preview earlier this year, was Cam Rising, even if he was going to play at the beginning of the season, he was probably going to be a little hobbled, which concerns me a little bit, just because Cam Rising, although he's not like a super dynamic runner, he definitely relies on mobility in the pocket. He definitely relies on, like, he could tuck the ball and run. Like, he relies on some of his physical gifts in order to, like, for Utah to succeed. Without him, and then a guy people are not talking about, Brent Keithy, that might not be playing too. Like Dalton Kincaid last year stole the show because of what he did in that final game, but Keithy was going into the season last year the top tight end on that squad. Like he's a legitimate force himself. He's doubtful to play. And just on top of it all, Kyle Whittingham has never been good. I feel like in September is getting his teams like off the starter's gate. Like they finish strong. They're able to find like postseason success because of how they finish. It's never really how it starts. They always lose random games. They lost to Florida last year to a inferior team, lost to SDCU the year before. Like they're constantly just running into roadblocks at the start of the season. That just doesn't bode well for me. And it's just like, the line has fallen. The two things that do concern me though, taking Florida, the line's fallen. I think it's probably over adjusted in not a good way. And then to the fact, like Jameson said, Utah probably has known all summer that Cam Rising won't be playing. So they've been prepping for this game knowing that. And so that gives them a little bit of an advantage instead of it being like a week 5, week 6 type game when Cam Rising doesn't play. But I think Graham Mertz is good enough. I think SEC talent is solid enough just to keep them at least close in this game. But I think Florida surprises people this year. So it could be Florida.
Okay, I like it. And by the way, I caught